Welcome to the International News Channel, News LD. Today we present to you a news entitled,
Joe Biden's age is a hot topic as he looks to extend his time in the Oval Office until he is 86. When President Joe Biden went for his annual bodily at Walter Reed Nationwide Navy Medical Middle on Thursday morning, he set a new file, as he does each morning, as the oldest U.S. president ever. Biden's age is omnipresent in almost each dialogue, one individual concerned informed News LD, at a time when he's making ready for a re-election announcement that may strive to extend his time in the Oval Office until he is 86 years outdated. Biden, 80, hasn't formally determined to run once more, although he has stated he intends to, and his marketing campaign infrastructure is largely in place. Regardless, that aides say the president has informed them that his age won't be the figuring out issue in his closing determination about working for re-election. Conversations about it are shaping every part from planning anticipated marketing campaign schedule logistics to calibrating Vice President Kamala Harris' function as his working mate. White House spokesman Andrew Bates disputes how a lot of a issue the president's age is in conversations. That's merely not true, and makes one suppose they aren't concerned in many conversations right here. That is meant to concentrate on occasions that strive to play up the president's vitality, whereas attempting to strike a stability in the schedule of a man who tends to make extra blunders when drained. It additionally underscored the significance of a State of the Union deal with advisers seen as Biden at his greatest, from cadence and supply to his off-script sparring with Republicans in the home chamber. The speech served as a primetime second, an entrance of tens of thousands and thousands of viewers, to lay out for the nation the scale of his accomplishments and imaginative and prescient for the path forward, and, not less than implicitly, it additionally represented a window into why his age shouldn't be seen as detriment to his efforts to lead the nation down that path. The impact was speedy, with not less than one group watching, quietly anxious Democratic officers. Greater than a dozen of acknowledged after the truth it was a evening that both put to relaxation or went a great distance in assuaging their lingering considerations about the get-together's chief. That Biden repeatedly went again to the phrase "end the job" roughly a dozen instances throughout the speech wasn't precisely refined, a type of Democrats stated, although advisers say Biden would hold to the customary of not beginning day-by-day campaigning for not less than 12 months. Simply as President Barack Obama did in 2011, they're already searching for low-influence methods to maximize protecting him in the public eye. To some extent it will observe and construct on the oft-criticized system deployed in the lead-up to the midterms, the place Biden eschewed a highway warrior, rally-heavy technique and tailor-made and focused occasions, and smaller crowds, as an alternative. Humorous that we didn't hear a lot from the critics about that technique after November 8, one advisor stated sarcastically of the Democrats' precedent-busting efficiency on Election Day final 12 months. Amongst the doable methods are having him sustain the sort of news-making appearances he's been doing in and around Washington and making ready for what they're hoping will probably be the most in-depth digital effort of a presidential marketing campaign ever. High surrogates deployed at a common clip would come with a roster populated by youthful technology of politicians, folks acquainted with the matter say, even as one identified that given Biden's age, that's to a point an inevitability. Like we did in 2020, if he runs in 2024 there will probably be a array of surrogates that present the range of the get-together, throughout all ages, from Maxwell Frost to Bernie Sanders, a Biden advisor stated, referencing the 26-year-old freshman congressman from Florida and the unbiased Vermont senator. Too many high Democratic operatives and officers wanting forward. Biden's age is the high concern of his re-election marketing campaign, in essence, what he's working towards, not less than until a Republican nominee emerges, in accordance to News LD's conversations with 36 White House aides, elected officers, main Democratic operatives and others starting to put together for the race forward. It's a part of who he is, as a lot of half as his file of legislative accomplishments in the final 2 years, as a lot of half as his empathy and his reference to folks, stated a senior Biden advisor. The advisor went on to spell out a concept of the case Biden's group believes will outweigh any considerations, irrespective of how persistent they seem in public polling. At the finish of the day, persons are going to say, "Who's on my facet?" The advisor stated. "Who's preventing for me? Who's getting issues executed and making a materials distinction in my life?" That's how Mitch Landrieu, the White Home infrastructure coordinator, made the case to the anti-democratic mayors he joined for a political assembly in January at a lodge a few blocks from the White Home. "Folks need to concentrate on one quantity, the president's age, 80, he stated, and let the phrases linger for simply a second. The mayors regarded round uncomfortably, in accordance to two folks in the room. They'd been fascinated with Biden's age themselves, continuously listening to doubts he might or would run continuously from again House. They have been startled to hear it stated out loud by a White Home official. However, Landrieu stated, as he began to tick by stats round COVID-19 pictures, jobs created, unemployment charges, there are a complete lot extra essential numbers on the market. Nonetheless, voters convey Biden's age up continuously in focus teams. Many veer towards assuming he should be ineffective or being puppeteered, mind useless. Mustache dementia is a phrase that comes up all the time, stated one who noticed a number of focus group classes throughout campaign's final 12 months. Greater than a dozen Democratic operatives and officers informed News LD they're fearful that Donald Trump, himself a septuagenarian who is going through calls for brand spanking new management from youthful politicians in his get-together, or one other a lot youthful Republican who might emerge as the nominee might make a present of seeming extra energetic simply by protecting a tempo of 2 or 3 occasions every day. Quite a lot of outstanding figures in the Democratic occasion are privately questioning the president's skill to sustain an lively journey schedule. A handful of bold Democrats have already quietly ready rudimentary contingency plans in case Biden has a change of coronary heart and decides towards working for re-election, folks acquainted with the efforts informed News LD. These plans span every part from considering buy-high donors to eyeing potential core marketing campaign workers. Ought to Biden reassess his skill to serve one other 4 years, or has an sudden well-being downside, sparking a brief fuse major? And whereas high White Home aides bristle at any suggestion that the president's age is a legal responsibility, others in the constructing quietly fear that this can be actively underplaying the considerations that they're listening to from their very own family and friends members. Different Democratic operatives making ready for a marketing campaign fear about letting suspicions fester, evaluating them to the conspiracies about hidden circumstances that trailed Hillary Clinton all through 2016. They're going to be speaking about it, stated one high Democrat engaged on planning forward for the re-election marketing campaign. So, we've obtained to discuss it. The president's opponents are speaking about it. Proper wing media protection of the categorized paperwork discovered in Biden's former workplace and storage made him out to be both senile, to clarify why he hadn't remembered what occurred to the paperwork, or at the heart of a conspiracy concept about a controversy manufactured by Democrats to ease him into retirement. Texas Senator Ted Cruz informed News LD with a sorrowful tone in an interview final month, he's plainly diminished, far under the threshold wanted to be a functioning and efficient president. Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders' Republican response to Biden's State of the Union used the line, at 80. He's the oldest president in American historical past. They attacked him over age earlier than he beat them in 2020. They attacked him over age as he constructed the greatest legislative file in fashionable historical past, stated Bates. They did the similar earlier than he beat them 2022. I'm undecided what they suppose they're conducting. The pattern is not good for them. Perhaps they forgot, it's not simply them. Voters younger and outdated usually say they will tactually consider he's going to run. Mocking him as historical or asleep has changed into a straightforward joke for late-evening comedians. Many outstanding Democrats privately say some panicky model of what Robert Reich, the 76-year-old former Secretary of Labor, wrote not too long ago. Biden's age is deeply worrying, given what we learn about the pure decline of the human mind and physique. Biden advisors argue that almost all of the folks making these sorts of feedback are partisan Republicans, and that this is simply one other occasion of a hyperpolarization in politics. They level to Biden's earlier physicals and assessments by outdoors consultants who say that he has no bodily or psychological competence points in any respect. Certain, there was a noticeably elevated stiffness to his stroll since he's been in workplace, aides say, a lot in order that the White Home doctor, introduced in a group to assess Biden's gait throughout his final bodily in 2021. They concluded it was the results of regular put-on and tear of his backbone. They acknowledge there are days the place his power ranges at public occasions can seem much less vigorous. However, they're unequivocal about their view that Biden wouldn't inexperienced gentle one other run if he didn't suppose he might do it. They usually wouldn't help one both. They usually say these doubts are simply the newest manner of underestimating the president, declaring that age considerations additionally dogged his 2020 marketing campaign, although a few of those self-same advisors confided to others at the time that they believed his age was his largest legal responsibility when he was 4 years youthful, requested what the argument will probably be for a 2024 marketing campaign. The Biden senior advisor snapped, "I've obtained 2 phrases for you, knowledge and expertise." These phrases, and in general emphasis on Biden as an embodiment of reassuring routine and normalcy, pop up repeatedly among states who are beginning to look forward. They're additionally quietly reframing a key second at the finish of the 2020 major marketing campaign, when Biden was endorsed in March 2020 by the a-lot youthful Harris, Booker and Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and described himself as a bridge to the subsequent technology. Many at the time took that to imply a 4-year bridge, an implicit one-term promise that acknowledged his age. Advisors level out he'd beforehand rejected a one-term pledge. However, folks round Biden recommend, what he was speaking about was not simply getting Donald Trump out of the White Home, however getting previous Trump and Trumpism. Advisors say that is what the logic round a 2024 run boils down to, making the case that the solely factor worse than an 82-year-old president is a Republican one. Biden advisors additionally argue that the president's persona as an elder statesman might assist Democrats maintain onto voters who see the get-together as altering too shortly and veering too far left. Folks really prefer it's a turbulent world that we're dwelling in, and it is a power for Joe Biden to have the ability to level to not simply years of expertise in authorities up to this level, however extra instantly his final 2 years in the White Home having the ability to get issues executed, regardless of the turbulence, stated a second Biden advisor. And what we're seeing from Republicans in the home in phrases of chaos and extremism is an extremely highly effective distinction too, that underscores the concept that his expertise, and sure, age, is a profit. Though there are clear moments when Biden is visibly slower bodily than he was, dozens of aides, administration officers and members of Congress who've truly spent time with him have relayed tales to News LD about how thorough and demanding he is in assembly after assembly. There's a confidence that comes from understanding what you're doing, Ted Kaufman, certainly one of Biden's closest buddies and advisors since his first marketing campaign, informed News LD late final 12 months. Biden likes to speak and hold speaking. However, he did spend 36 years in the Senate. He generally rambles, however he rambled lengthy earlier than his hair went gray. He usually will get caught on, or mispronounces, names on his teleprompter, however that's much more linked to a convergence of wanting to get the identify appropriate whereas not encountering a block tied to the childhood stutter he labored intensively and efficiently to overcome, however none less surfaces in sure moments. A number of outstanding Democratic officers informed News LD that they fear even so, each stumble now will probably be seen by the prism of age. Biden's advisors are keenly conscious of what they view as a notion, or in some instances, in the phrases of one individual shut to Biden, the bull caricature, that they are saying doesn't match the actuality they see. They are saying he's the one continuously including to his schedule, pushing for picture traces with native politicians and further time to greet crowds after his occasions, or making conferences run over by peppering coverage aides with questions. "The power is greater now than possibly once I first met him, and I actually consider that that's impressed by the work," stated Representative Lisa Blunt Rochester, who as a Delaware Democrat has recognized and labored with Biden a lot of her life. "There is maybe no higher window into the public notion versus personal actuality advisors strive to convey than a 15-hour stretch in Bali, Indonesia, at the Group of 20 Assembly final November. Nearing the finish of a grueling 6-day, 3-country journey to Asia that additionally included his first face-to-face assembly as president with Chinese language chief Xi Jinping, Biden selected to skip the gala dinner and went again to his lodge. Whispers went round that Biden was too drained, unable to hold going. Simply a few hours later, he was sitting throughout from Nationwide Safety Advisor Jake Sullivan and Secretary of State Antony Blinken attempting to head off a spiraling worldwide disaster. Biden, carrying khakis and a gray t-shirt from a Delaware-based tractor and backyard provide Hart, was on the telephone with the Polish president over the missile that had landed in Polish territory and killed 2 folks, elevating the chance that Russia's unrelenting assaults on Ukraine had lastly spilled into a NATO ally. There have been calls with the NATO secretary normal and fixed communication with his army management. Aides mentioned an emergency name with G7 and NATO leaders. Biden stated that wasn't sufficient. "We're all right here," Biden informed his senior group of the leaders scattered throughout close-by motels. "Convey them right here." An hour later, Biden himself walked the 10 leaders who got here to the Grand Hyatt by early intelligence that the missile possible was not of Russian origin. Fears of dramatic escalation shortly dissipated. 30 minutes later, Biden was strolling by mangrove bushes telling French President Emmanuel Macron and different leaders tales from his Senate days. Aides stated Biden didn't skip the gala as a result of he was drained, although they by no means defined additional. The reality, 2 folks acquainted with the matter stated, was he wished some time to concentrate on preparation for his granddaughter's marriage ceremony that weekend at the White Home, somewhat than have extra generic conversations with counterparts over one other meal. He was prepared, nevertheless, when a disaster second arrived, they stated. And he drove the response. White Home aides clock mentions of Biden's age in the media, with explicit consideration to people who occur to miss the ages of equally aged politicians like Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, who is 12 months older, and Trump, who is 76. They shortly shoot down what they see as sneering insinuations, like when reporters ask why the president has a gentle public schedule on the days again from abroad journeys, although that has been customary apply for a number of current presidents, together with Obama. They insist that his midterm journey schedule proves how strong a presence he may be on the highway, although Biden not often appeared at greater than a few occasions every week by the fall. Biden hated folks speaking about how outdated he was when he was youthful. He hates it much more now. "Do I want he was 10 years youthful? Yeah. So does he," stated one Biden donor. "However, there is nothing to me, past his chronological age, that may lend itself to the argument he shouldn't search re-election." Aides snort at how usually his response to seeing information mentions of his age is to do a little jog in or out of his subsequent public occasion. Buddies say he's taken to making sarcastic references to his age, even as he speaks proudly about all he's been in a position to accomplish. Or there was his transfer 3 weeks in the past in the state eating room, when he pretended to wobble as he obtained again up from taking a knee for a picture with the NBA champion Golden State Warriors, taking a second to make enjoyable of the crowd's shock. "I wished to stand up there and truly give him an arm and assist him up. However, I didn't know if I'd get in bother for that, so I simply kinda stood again," star ahead Draymond inexperienced informed News LD afterward. To see him in that bodily situation at his age, to stand up and down like that, was completely unimaginable. Will the U.S. have an 86-year-old president? As the 2024 presidential race starts to ramp up, so have GOP attacks on President Joe Biden's age. The 80-year-old president had his physical today, as the White House prepares for a likely presidential race. CNN political director David Chalian breaks down GOP attacks, and what Democrats themselves are saying about America's oldest sitting president. Quite a lot of youthful Democratic politicians and operatives inform News LD they're prepared to embrace the thought of Biden as a grandfatherly determine, persevering with to be a supply of consolation and calm for a battered nation, even capitalizing on a particular type of nostalgia for a pre-Trump time in politics and the information. After all, that may take Biden himself shopping for in. Even his grandkids don't name him grandpa, they name him pop. He doesn't need to be a grandpa, stated one who is aware of him. He desires to be a bro. Aftab Purival, the Cincinnati mayor who simply turned 40 in September, stated a go-to from the president final month left him with the impression that Biden has greater than sufficient left in the tank. Purival noticed a man who laughed laborious when the mayor intentionally used a well-known Biden interjection, one which accommodates a four-letter phrase that begins with F, to describe what a massive deal the bipartisan infrastructure cash was in serving to rebuild the native Brent Spence Bridge. There have been the fist bumps with the crowd at the barbecue spot in city they went to afterward. There was the manner the president instantly flashed the fraternity hand signal when a younger black man talked about that he was a member of Phi Beta Sigma. Once you're with him, age was by no means actually on my thoughts. What was on my thoughts was the president offered the single largest grant in our nation's historical past to our bridge, Purival stated. His age is his age, however you possibly can't argue with the outcomes.